You've probably seen the headlines, government shutdown. But what does that actually mean? How did we even get here? And what's the real story behind this political stalemate? Well, we're going to break it all down for you.
17. Just let that number sink in for a second. For 17 straight days, big parts of the US government have just stopped. And that number, it's still ticking up. And honestly, there's no end in sight right now. So that's what we're here to do. Connect the dots for you. We're going to look at the political gridlock that got us here, the real people this is hurting, and what the heck might happen next.
Okay, so let's start with the basics. Where are we right now? Well, we're way past the 2-week mark, and a huge chunk of the government is basically on pause.
And here's the kicker. Congress isn't even scheduled to come back until Monday. That means no talks, no votes. This shutdown is absolutely guaranteed to last through the weekend. And for a lot of government services, it's not just a pause, it's a hard stop.
So, the big question is, why? Why is this even happening? And to get that, you've got to dive into the heart of the conflict, which is this really deep political stalemate in Washington.
All right, this slide pretty much sums up the whole fight. On one side, you've got the Democrats. They're saying, look, we're not passing any funding bill unless it includes guarantees for health insurance subsidies. Simple as that. But on the other side, you have the Republicans who want what's called a clean bill. They're just like, let's just fund the government, no extra stuff attached. So you can see they're not even agreeing on what the bill is supposed to do.
In the White House, well, reports are saying the president hasn't really shown much interest in getting into direct negotiations this week. Instead, the focus seems to be on taking action from his end, trying to manage things without Congress.
10. Just think about that. The Senate has tried 10 times to pass something to end this shutdown, and every single time it's failed. That number alone tells you just how dug in everyone is. Okay, now this is where things get really interesting. You have to look at the administration's strategy here. It seems like they're trying to manage the shutdown's impact in a way that kind of delays the worst of the public fallout.
What they're doing is basically moving money around to soften the immediate blow. For example, they figured out how to pay the military, keep some law enforcement funded, and even use money from tariffs to keep important nutrition programs for women and children going. These are all very specific moves designed to, well, delay the pain.
And then you've got another piece to this puzzle, the courts. A federal judge actually stepped in and blocked more layoffs at over 30 agencies. So that also kind of dials down the sense of immediate crisis, for now anyway.
So this all leads to a really critical question, right? If you delay the most painful, most visible parts of the shutdown, are you also taking away the political pressure to actually compromise and fix it? It's a really important dynamic to think about here.
But look, behind all this political strategy and talk about mitigating the impact, there's a real human cost. Forget the DC games for a second. There are hundreds of thousands of federal workers who are just stuck right in the middle of all this.
Yeah, for thousands of federal employees, their lives are just on hold. They're basically split into two terrible categories. You've got the furloughed workers, they're sent home, can't work. Then you've got the essential workers, who have to show up every day. The catch? Neither group is getting paid.
And you can just imagine the stress. I mean, there's no guarantee they'll get back pay when this is all over. People are genuinely worried about making rent, paying the mortgage, their car payments. And get this, some are even being told they can't take time off even though they're not getting a paycheck.
And just to give you some perspective on how long this has been going on, check out this chart. At 17 days, we have now officially passed the big 2013 shutdown. That was 16 days. So yeah, we're really entering uncharted and pretty painful territory here.
So, all of this really leads to the million-dollar question. What happens next? And honestly, the path forward is murky, to say the least.
I mean, let's really think about it. What happens if this stalemate just keeps going? What are the real consequences down the road?
Well, right now, the blame game is in high gear. You've got both sides digging their heels in, pointing fingers, and there are zero signs that anyone is ready to compromise. It's a total standoff. Because remember those moves to soften the blow? Well, they're just temporary fixes. They can't last forever. If this thing drags on, the problems are just going to get worse. We're talking bigger cuts to programs, serious flight delays because essential staff aren't getting paid, and yeah, eventually, those layoffs that the judge tried to stop might become unavoidable.
So the bottom line here, according to the sources we're looking at, is pretty bleak. The Band-Aids they're using to lessen the pain right now, they're not a long-term solution.
And that really leaves us with one final big question to chew on. We've seen how some of the worst impacts have been delayed, right? So if the public pressure isn't building up in the same way it has in past shutdowns, What on earth is it going to take to finally break this deadlock? That right there is the question that nobody in Washington seems to have an answer to.